Folks, so excited for this week's episode. We are sitting down with relatives, specifically Brian's relative, his cousin Che. Che is a fucking just phenomenal young man who had a promising and exciting future in the world of football until that future was unfortunately ripped from him due to the sudden discovery of a genetic heart condition, which essentially just stripped him of his dreams. It's a heart-wrenching story, but a story that I think is going to end up with quite a bit of promise and quite a bit of hope. Che is, I mean, he was just an absolute gem of a guest. I fucking love this conversation. I think you absolutely will too. If you've been listening for a long time, it's going to be right up your alley. If you've never listened to the show before, what a phenomenal show to start with, because Che is an absolute gem and we love him. So enjoy this. After our conversation with Che, Brian Taylor and myself have a quick chat about the declining birth rates in Japan and how Japan is taking some pretty interesting steps to try to mitigate that problem, including creating their own dating app, utilizing AI to try to mix and match to make people have sex and make babies, but more importantly, stay married. Okay. If you've been listening for a long time, we love you. If you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. And hey, after this recording or during this recording or tomorrow or 2 weeks from now, just tell someone you love about the show. The word of mouth is one of the most important parts for us to get our message out there. And we've got a ton of really exciting shows in the pipeline for the next couple of months. So we would love to have as many people listen to it as possible. So enjoy this conversation with our cousin Che.
Bingo.
All right. Well, let's get into it. We got the fucking big man up in the house.
Yes, sir.
Putting that chair to fucking use.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, this is I feel like furniture companies just hire you to come in to be like, test our shit.
Yeah, it's
Is this gonna stand the test of time? But get a fucking linebacker up in this motherfucker and just sit him in this shit.
Yeah. Someone has to do it.
Leon's fucking get on it.
Dude, Che puts linebackers to shame.
Straight up. You're a big fella.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
What did your parents feed you? What was in your mother's breast milk? Like, what's going on here?
I think it was just one of those things. Have you ever heard of Project Trent Williams?
No.
So, do you know who Trent Williams
No,
is?
I don't know.
Trent Williams is he's the best offensive lineman in the NFL. So, there's this kind of, I guess, just not a theory,
conspiracy
but
theory?
A conspiracy theory.
Fuck yeah, brother. Let's go. I'm on board now.
So it's basically you make sure that the two people are big people, and then it's kind of just like a exponential growth thing. You continue to make big people.
Totally.
So. Okay, so okay, right. I thought you were going down the route of like Trent Williams is actually my dad.
I wish. No, I don't wish, but like, love my dad. But
damn, man. So
Trent Williams would have been awesome.
Yeah.
What's really exciting here is what's brought you into the studio, other than the fact that you found out recently that you have an illness. We'll get to that, but also you've got some relatives in the room.
Yeah, Che and I are cousins.
Yeah.
But I didn't get any of the size.
You did
Trent
not.
Williams didn't fuck your mom?
Or the color.
Yeah, you guys are separated by size and color.
I'm really lacking in all categories.
Yeah, Brian, you're not nearly as dark as Che. So tell me about the relation. How does this work?
Well, my mom's adopted first, and then it's a long story. But Che and I I refer to Che as my cousin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
cool.
we're cousins.
Love it.
Technically, you're my mom's cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my mom's also adopted, and then my mom's adopted dad remarried after my mom's adopted mom
Holy Jesus.
died of breast cancer. So
all right. Well, let's.
There's
let's,
no
I'm gonna just take
blood
note. Don't ask
relationship.
about that again. Perfect. Great. So Che, how old are you?
I am 24 years old, 25 in July.
Hey, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And you, we found out recently that you have something going on with your genetics.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, like in my last year of university, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is what it's called.
Ooh.
So basically, like what it dumbs down to is like one of the ventricles in my heart is like not oversized, but like over thick, I guess. So like the lining is super thick, and then I'm at like really high chance of heart attack, pretty much.
Okay. Fuck. So do you have a girthy, like it's a very
thick with 3 C's if you want.
It's a 3C thick.
Thick on the outside and the inside.
Exactly. Just a thick guy, right?
Is that like one of those things where, because at first when Brian brought it up to me that we were going to be sitting down with you, and he said something along the lines of like, it's a heart thing. And he said the name of it, or like was like kind of trying to remember, like, I'm pretty sure it's a cardiomyopathy, but there's something before it, whatever. And it jumped into my mind like, oh, is this one of those things that you hear of athletes dying from when they have this like sudden death?
Yeah. So that's actually exactly what it was, which is why like I had to step away from the game of football, like basically because it's like one of those things where I could go my whole life and never even know. Like, so the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is actually like pretty common. Like 1 in 500 people have it.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can go your whole life having it and never see any symptoms, like never have any problems. And then one day you just drop dead. So it's really just from like overworking your heart. And then
that's like what Bruce Lee had, isn't it? Kung Fu master, Bruce Lee.
I know who Bruce Lee is.
Or like, I mean, I know that maybe it wasn't that, but I know that there's stories of like quite a few like epic athletes, that have just had this hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what I have specifically. I think there's like a couple different like not versions, but like things that are very similar in a way. Like I don't know the names of them, but like it all basically is the same thing where you just like something is oversized or undersized in your heart, and then you don't see it happen, and then
okay, you're the Grinch.
I mean, you see it,
basically.
like you hear about that shit happening. Like I feel like a lot of times you hear about it happening with kids, where like you hear that like tragic story of, oh, this 16-year-old just dropped dead at training camp for football, or dropped dead on the ice or on the bench. It happened to.
That's what happened when I was playing soccer.
It happened right. It happened to. I'm forgetting his first name now. Christensen, at the World Cup, for Denmark, and he just like, and he didn't die. He was treated, and I don't know if it was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, but I'm sure in this like family of things where athletes unbeknownst to them are living with this heart condition that can be really hard to diagnose, because you might not ever have symptoms up until the day that it kills you.
Especially if you're like an athlete, you're like, you're sort of like the epitome of health in your younger years. It's like, if you've never had any signs of anything else, it's like, there's no other reason why you'd be going to get checked out for shit.
Yeah. How did you, so you're here with us. Obviously you have not dropped dead on the field.
Not yet. No.
How did you come about finding out that you had this?
So it was that COVID year. So like I was away for university for COVID, and then so I went to St. FX, and when I was there, like we were doing our training normal, whatever, and then I think it was like January, like so COVID happened that January or February, like where it blew up, and then everyone went into lockdown. And then that coming year, St. FX still had school, like in-person class. So everything was normal, went to school, was training through the fall and everything. And then after Christmas, I got COVID, I think like first or second week back. And when I got COVID, I was having like some chest pains, which I thought was just COVID stuff. So it was just like nothing crazy, but just kind of felt like a tightening like in my chest, which I assumed was my lungs or whatever it was. So anyways, week goes by and I'm fine, and I'm kind of think I'm back to normal. So I go back home, and I had to get cleared before I could go back to training, because we were going to be doing winter training. And so I remember I was driving up to, it was during reading week. So I was driving up to get a scan, and I was like, talking to my mom, talking to my friends. Oh yeah, like it's fine. I'm going to be back in business. Like everything's good. Like I'm feeling good, like ready to go. And then I remember I went in and they were doing a scan of my heart. And so I laid down and she started scanning me. And then like I was like, oh, this is kind of taking longer than I thought it would. And all of a sudden I'm seeing that she has like 50 pictures of my heart like up on the screen. And I'm like,
why 50?
Yeah, why 50? Why not 5? Like, how many pictures do you need?
How many do you usually have up there?
Yeah, and so then she wasn't saying anything. Like she was just doing her job. And then I remember she left, and I'm just laying there, and then they came back in, and it was actually that's when I knew something was wrong because so she left. She was just like the technician or whatever, and then she comes back with like 8 people, and I was like, oh fuck, like
yeah, because usually they'd be like, all right, see you later. Like, we'll call you if there's anything to talk about.
Yeah. So she came back with like 8 people and half of them didn't even need to be there. Like they were training or whatever. She was like, I brought Timmy and Jenny here. they're like just working with me. So they're here like listening. I'm like, okay. And then she drops he or she, I can't remember, but somebody drops the news. They're like, yeah, you have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And like,
wow. You're like, well, bless you.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. Like, and then with like, basically the first thing that she said to me was like, you can't play sports anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this happened like you went in,
what the fuck?
You're thinking to yourself, I'm just going in to get a scan.
Yeah.
To get like
peasy.
cleared. Like
To
you're
get
just going,
cleared.
like, I just got to do this to get cleared.
I got to do this like technicality thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and do this scan. You're in the scan and then they go and get people and they come in and in real time they give you a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow, that's wild.
It was really intense. And then I ended up like, so they took me right over to ICU and I stayed there for like a week.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like they were like, we're keeping you like.
And was that like, we're going to keep you because we found this condition. We don't know what the severity of it is.
Yeah.
And we want to keep an eye on you because
Yeah.
this can, I mean, if you have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, it can lead to a series of boo-boos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like no-nos. That would be annoying to say the least.
Yeah.
And so just keeping an eye on it because like we need to assess the situation before we let you go out into the world.
Yeah, pretty much. And like,
fuck.
So at the time, like I'm just going through and I'm like sitting there, like I feel normal. Like I feel like I've always felt like this is fucking crazy.
When you got to the ICU, were you like,
well, it was,
were you like, man, guys, I'm chilling. Like everybody around you is just fucked up and you're like, and you're just hanging out, like chilling with the nurses.
like I got my boys to bring in my Xbox. Like I have my Xbox in there, like, cause I'm like, you guys are making me stay here. Like at the bare minimum, I had literally got like a TV brought in and my Xbox brought in. So I could,
it must have been a sense of disbelief though, because like I'm imagining being in that situation and like somebody telling you that you have this thing and you feel totally normal.
Yeah.
And also the result of that is that you can't do the thing that you love anymore.
You're like,
Like that must have been such a fucking trip.
It
like
was
so hard
like,
to believe.
It felt like a movie. Like I know everyone's like, oh, first person, like or not first person syndrome, but like main character syndrome.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like though, because I'm sitting there like I am completely fine. Like someone is writing the next Blind Side movie right now. Like
was this at the hospital that you were at? Where were you?
So I was in Antigonish. That was the other portion. Is I'm sitting there like and that's so ignorant of me, but I'm like, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
These guys don't know shit out here.
Like we're out in Antigonish. Like this is like.
I mean, to be fair. Anyway, continue.
Yeah,
they got medical degrees in how to reel in lobster.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it was. Yeah.
I mean, for all of our Ontario folks, it's like Che lives in Toronto and he goes to the hospital in Scarborough. It's like, really, Scarborough? Like, guys,
okay,
come on.
easy,
You
guys.
don't even know.
Oh, you're
Easy,
so
guys.
Toronto right now.
That's
Haley, was that correct? Was that sort of accurate? Scarborough? It's like Scarborough. Yeah, right. Right. Haley, our hire who works here, she just mouthed Scarborough is shit. Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't say that, but hey, cool. So did you end up staying there or did you end up coming back to like the Smart Hospital here in Halifax?
Fuck.
So I stayed there for like the 5 or 6 days. And then like, honestly, when I was in there, like, I felt like my mental health was like deteriorating like
no
crazy
doubt.
just because I felt like I was trapped like an animal basically. So like I don't even know if they had plans of like releasing me, besides the fact that like I was literally like turning into a blob in the hospital, just because like I was like, what is going on? Like half of my life was just taken away from me.
Yeah.
Did you feel like I had an experience when I just had a baby a couple months ago.
Congrats. I didn't know that.
Thank you. Second one. And
I mean, his wife had a baby. It was
I didn't.
What's his name that impregnated her? It's gonna be a big baby.
Trent Williams. Project Trent Williams.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
Yeah, that's right. We're just
he
trying
gets
to
around that fucker.
We're trying to pump out. That's our mission. O linemen, pump out O line women.
Hey,
O line women.
It's a well-paid position.
not in the WFL. I don't think.
Yeah, it's not as well.
Actually, I don't even think the WFL exists.
Yeah,
yet.
but when it does
but
exist,
Zaya's going to be the one to bring it into.
Yeah, when it does exist,
Zaya Williams will be the one.
Probably struggle with pay parity.
God damn.
So I had
This is too much fun.
This is too much fun. In-person interviews are always the best. I had a baby, and there was some issues that the medical team was picking up on, but she was not exhibiting any issues. Like she seemed healthy and happy, and she wasn't exhibiting any problems. But the doctors in blood pricks were picking things up, and she had a fever, and the doctors were like, "All right, well," at a certain point, they were like, "We're gonna go down to the NICU," and to me, I mean, obviously I'm not, this isn't her experience. She's a baby, but like my experience as the parent was like, even though she seems totally fine, the ICU is like, oh fuck, that's the scary place.
Yeah.
Like that's the place where you go when things are really scary.
Yeah.
And so even though she was showing no signs and she ended up being totally fine, she was there for 24 hours or maybe even less. That fucked with me mentally.
Yeah.
Like, when they were like, we're going to bring you to the ICU, like just the idea of them thinking that this is a place where you need to be, like what ran through your mind? Were you like, whoa, guys, it can't be that serious.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah, exactly. That's honestly partially what it was. And the other portion was like, what's the ICU? Like, not that I didn't know what it was, but it was just kind of like I didn't like clue in. Like it was just all happening so fast that like I wasn't really cluing in into what was happening until I look back at it now and I'm like, yeah, I was like, they put me in the intensive care unit
Yeah.
with
like,
everybody who's like unconscious and on breathing tubes. And
when you typically, so my partner worked at the CVICU here in Halifax, where so you would have went there. The cardiovascular intensive care unit has they have the ICU, but they also have a specific ICU only for heart shit,
and only in Halifax, not in any.
Way too above pay grade. But if you go, I mean, typically most people, if you are admitted to the ICU, I mean the numbers we've talked about on the show, but like the numbers of people recovering from the ICU, or me living with a nurse who worked in an ICU, it's like if you find yourself at the ICU and you leave the ICU,
it's like being on the edge of a black hole.
Anywhere near the same that you went in, you are fucking lucky. Like that is a crazy thing to have experienced, and that's if you leave at all. Like most people who go to the ICU, a lot of them don't make it out. It's like that's where you spend your last days and you have your last breath. I mean, your situation very unique, where it's like you're going in, you look fine, you feel fine. They want to make sure you're okay, but even then, like that's still got to be a bit of a mindfuck.
What were they telling you? During your stay? What information were they giving you?
Honestly, like I wasn't getting too much information, and like how you said, like I felt like there was a bit of like not like animosity isn't the right word, but like kind of like. I could feel that like some of the nurses were questioning it, like not saying that they were like, oh, he's lying, but like it just felt like, because I'm sitting in there not laughing all the time, like definitely not laughing, but like I'm sitting there on the game talking to my friends and like being like, yeah, they got me cooped up in this place and like pissed that I'm there, and they're like,
watch your six, watch your six,
exactly,
watch your six. Okay, enter the building. Okay,
Call of Duty call outs while like the lady next to you is just ventilated and like. and like they're just cleaning poop out of her, and they're like, "Can this kid shut
I
the
get
fuck
that.
up?"
I get that from the sense that like, you know, like somebody else signed the paper for you to be in there. Like somebody else made the decision that you need to be there. And now there's nurses that are taking care of you.
Yeah.
And like, you're not sure totally why you're there. And I guess to come back to that idea of like understanding the terminology and like what was told to you. Like if somebody told me that I had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and I've had conversations about this before, but even if somebody diagnosed me with that like today, I wouldn't understand what that meant. So like how, and you know, in those situations, it's often the case where, you know, you're so like in shock that you can't even really wrap your head around what they're saying. So like, how did you go into the ICU? Like understand, like what was your understanding of what was going on and why you needed to be in there?
Like my main understanding was I have an enlarged heart, and B, I'm at risk of like dropping dead.
Yeah.
Like that was my understanding. So I'm just like, all right, I'm here for the ride, I guess. And
So for context, just to give like a little bit of insight into hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, HCM, it's a condition affecting the left ventricle, which is the main pumping chamber of the heart. The walls of the left ventricle become thick and stiff. Over time, the heart can't take in or pump out enough blood during each heartbeat to supply the body's need of blood. And it's usually caused by inherited genetic variant. But there's two types of HCM. So there's obstructive, which is the most common type, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, HOCM, which means that the wall, the septum, between the left ventricle and the right ventricle thickens, and this can block or obstruct blood flow from the left ventricle into the aorta. The other one is, so that's obstructive. Then there's non-obstructive or non-obstructive. Non-obstructive HCM is the heart muscle that thickens but doesn't block blood flow. Do you know if you have obstructive or non-obstructive?
honestly, I don't. Maybe I probably should know, but I don't.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
that's like honestly part of like my growth and like my therapy that I've been going to with this is like I basically just like accepting it and like coming
Yeah.
to term with it, because like like up until recently I've kind of just like neglected it and like pushed it to the side and like tried not to think about it because I always have felt normal, which is like obviously an issue. So
I mean, I honestly can't. I've thought about this quite a bit, actually, because anytime I've ever heard about an athlete who, my sport is now, like, I grew up playing hockey, but my sport now is cycling, and I compete at a high level here. And in pro cycling, it happens all the time where it happens probably 3 to 5 times a year, where a pro, like at the top of the top level, is like, I got to retire because I have a heart issue, and I just can't exercise at that level anymore, or even close to that level. And I've thought about that for me, like what physical activity and like means to me, and being able to like go out and push myself and work out and everything. And it's like such a big part of my identity. Like, like how did, you just mentioned it, like accepting it and the work to go through that. Talk to us about that. Like about being told, you this thing that you've been doing, this thing that you put time into, this thing that's a part of you, can't do it. Carte blanche. Like you just cannot do it anymore. Like, how did that flip you upside down?
yeah, I mean, it was definitely like really hard for me, especially at the time of it happening. Like, like small flex, not trying to flex, but like in my last year, I won All Canadian for my position. So like, if you win All Canadian, you're like, there's a good chance you're gonna go to the CFL, pretty much. So like, not that that's, especially with the CFL, it's not like a forever thing like it is with the NFL, but it's a career for sure. Like, and you can make it a career. So like, it wasn't, for me at least, like I always saw football as like a means to get my school paid for, which was like the original goal, and get a degree. Like that's why I was playing football, and because I love the sport as well. But like when I got the All-Canadian nod, it was like so that would have been like in November, December prior to me getting diagnosed. And that was kind of like, oh shit, like I could really fucking do something with football. And then for like within 3 months that be snatched from me, it was kind of like, this isn't fair type of thing. So, I mean, it wasn't that all my eggs were in that basket, but it was definitely like a kind of like a dream taken right away, right after getting the dream. You know what I mean? So it was definitely shitty.
Did you?
Can you explain a little bit more about the All Canadian? Like, what is that? That's an award?
Yeah. So like, if you win so basically how it works is you play out the season, and then each conference across Canada, you get you like all-stars are selected for the league. So like I was selected for an all-star at the left guard position. That's what I played, which is an offensive line position. And then once you receive an all-star nod, you put a tape together, your highlights of the season. It's like 8 or 10 clips, and you write a little bit about it, like explaining what you're doing in the clip, and then you send it off, and there's like a quote-unquote unbiased group of coaches. Like usually it's coaches from other conferences critiquing your work. So like maybe the Cam West, which is like the West League coaches, were reviewing the AUS film, which is the league that I played in. Anyways, and so then I got the All-Canadian nod. So I was second team All-Canadian in my last year. And that would mean that I was one of 2 of the best at my position that year across Canada.
Wow.
So,
yeah. In university football.
In university football.
What does when you get this diagnosis, which really I can't, it's even hard to wrap my head around, like the immediacy with how you got diagnosed like that. Like I gotta say, we've talked to a ton of people, and there's not very many people that go into the hospital and then in real time during a scan have doctors come in and tell them they have a diagnosis.
Not to mention people who are like the difference between people who are trying to get a diagnosis and then somebody who's like not even trying.
Yeah, it's just like, yo, I was just here for the I was just here for the scan.
Like I'm literally like Marshawn Lynch. I'm here so I don't get fined.
Yeah,
for real.
I'm here so I over and over and over again.
For real.
When they are like, yo, you can't football, no go anymore. What level of activity are they like? Anything? Do they give you a above this level of activity you cannot do, or what are the guidelines that they give you for living with living an active life with the heart condition that you have?
So, and that's like that was honestly the weirdest part, and like a part that I've had like a really hard time with is there's no like simple answer, and no one gives the same answer. So like the doctors in Antigonish were like, no anything.
No lobster fishing.
No lobster fishing. I did that one summer.
Hard
I was
work.
at the plant.
Hard work.
It is very hard work. But yeah, they were like, the doctors at Antigonish were like, no heavy lifting, like no nothing, where I'm coming from, like literally going for PRs weekly, like trying to grow strength. And they're like, no working out basically, like besides walking. Like I remember I was like, so what am I allowed to do? And they were like, you can golf and you can bowl.
No.
Yeah.
Now, can you lawn bowl?
Yeah. I think
It's
so.
apparently one of the most dangerous sports in the world, but
yeah,
for
if you're
reasons
90 years
outside-
old.
yeah.
Yeah. So I did end up taking up golfing, but yeah, like they
Dude,
that's what they told
Jesus
me.
Christ,
Yeah, when you hitting the ball 700
you
yards.
hit a ball so hard the fucking ball explodes.
The only thing I can
turn it
hit
to
is my
dust.
driver. I swear. It's like everything else is going left or right. The driver goes.
So like just for context, like what I've read here is that with HPC, there is no treatment really. The treatment is basically just trying to ease symptoms to prevent cardiac death, and there's no cure for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. There's medications that people can take, and there's surgical interventions that can happen depending on like where you are or like how severe it is. You know, something as extreme as like a heart transplant. But like it seems like there's not a lot that's like on the table to really like be proactive in treating it or managing it, other than like major surgery or a series of medicines that can help reduce how strongly the heart muscle squeezes and slow the heart rate. Are you on like beta blockers or like any kind of like medications or anything?
So I take metoprolol daily, like twice a day. Okay. Which basically just like, as I'm told, it slows down my heart rate. Okay. And that's all I take. And then so a year ago now, so I got diagnosed in like January, February, and then that June I got a defibrillator put in. So I have a defibrillator.
Oh, no way.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So it's on like the side here. It's a new one. So it's not, I guess the one that they give to like older people for the most part, like when they're diagnosed, it goes like through the ventricles of your heart. But I have like this new one that it's basically the battery pack is right here on my side. And then the cords go up through around my chest here and then like monitors my heart.
And you're wearing that, and you wear that all the time.
Yeah. Like it's like, I
like
can
it's
show you.
inside
you.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, like I got a big scar right
Whoa.
there.
Right
So,
up fucking in there.
Wait, do they have to like cut you open to replace the batteries?
like,
or?
so
it's all inside.
Yeah, everything's inside of me. Yeah.
Whoa.
So it's like if your heart stopped, it would go, time to shock him. And then like,
yeah.
Man, how do you manage?
What's the difference between a pacemaker and is it just called a defibrillator?
Yeah, there's another term for it, but I can't remember. Like, there's a medical, like
I think a pacemaker is
like
slightly,
keeps it.
I think
it keeps the rhythm.
Yeah. But a defibrillator would just be like
starts it up.
Yeah, it's like a backstop.
Yeah, so if I ever had like a dangerous rhythm, like then it would kick in and then
implantable cardioverter defibrillator. Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool.
How do you manage the fear around, I guess do you have fear? And if you do, how do you manage the fear around wondering whether you're doing too much, like at any given time? Like, you know, like you're like, you know, I don't know, you're out with somebody and we're like, hey, do you want to go up to the top of Citadel Hill? And you're looking up at the top of Citadel Hill and you're like, fuck. Okay. Yeah. Hope that doesn't do it. Like,
well, exactly. Yeah. Like, and honestly, that's like something that I've been like learning to come to terms with and like work on. So like I was referred to a therapist like a couple months ago now. I've been going to a therapist for like 2 months, basically just like trying not to, I forget, I should know what it's called, but there's like a certain type of therapy that I'm taking where basically it's like I remember the way that my therapist first explained it to me is like, she was like, so if you're a rabbit, like, what is a rabbit's greatest fear? And she was like, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like getting eaten by a wolf. And then she was like, but like before hibernation, like do rabbits need, like they gotta get their food. So how do they balance like that fear of getting snatched up by a wolf and like still having to, and feeding themselves. And that's kind of been like the base of like where I've been trying to grow and like come to terms with that. Right. So, I mean, it's definitely a challenge, and it's funny too because just like I am a bigger guy, so sometimes it feels like a cop out because like I swear I'm not like a fat lazy slob of shit. Like I swear I'm not, but like it's like something that I do have to worry about. So like for instance, like if we're playing like I play basketball with my friends like recreationally, like we'll just go shoot hoops, and it's like after a game or two, like I'm like, okay, I'm out of here for 1 or 2, or like I'm done, or like whatever it is. And so it's like, it's just, I'm constantly feeling like I have to monitor how much I'm pushing myself.
Yeah.
God, do you feel like
be a fucking like a defensive king?
Yeah, I'm a pain specialist.
God damn it. Yeah.
I never leave the key.
When you talk to your therapist about that, do you find that you tend to live in the space of like doing too much, or like being a little bit afraid of like how much you can actually do?
I would say that I probably live on the side of, I would say I probably do too much, like in a way. Just in regards to like, I mean, like I know I'm a big guy, but like I'm a big guy naturally, and I've always lived the active lifestyle. Like I always played sports, always did everything. So like trying to tune that down and change who I am like as a person has been a really big challenge.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to. So
Yeah.
like
there must be like some, and maybe you can talk more about this, but like the mind fuck of like getting this diagnosis,
mhm.
you know, not feeling any different, you know, being told that you have to change your life and being in this sense of disbelief, and now having to like adapt and live a lifestyle that like doesn't align with like what you,
Mhm.
you know, the way that you lived your life before. Like, I know Taylor was kind of asking about this, but like that is a hard thing mentally
Mhm.
to deal with. So like you know, I know you're going to therapy now and you talked about struggling with that, but like how intense has that feeling been? Like how much has that sucked in your life?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely sucked. Like yeah, I don't know. It feels mostly just like such a big part of me was just like ripped from me, and I'm being like forced to change, I guess.
Mm.
So I don't know. It's yeah, it's tough. Like, but it is what it is, and like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
there's the things that you have no control over and
Yeah.
the things that you do.
D-
And like
and
the
that's
things
like
that
a
you do
huge part of
is
what
the part that you
When-
gotta focus
yeah.
on.
I know that we were like shitting on like jokingly on Andy Ganesh and like rural hospitals.
Yeah.
But also I want to like
They
pull
all
out the
blanket statement. They
I
all
wanna-
suck.
I want to pull out the truth of getting a diagnosis that you know aren't happy with, and the idea of it being okay to get a second opinion.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if that like crossed your mind where you were like, oh, I really want to find out if this is what these people say it is. Like, was there that sort of process, or is it just black and white and like it is what it is?
So, yeah, like when I first got diagnosed, like basically right from the jump, I was like, I'm like going to get a second opinion. Like at some point, I'm going to get a second opinion. And so like after I guess like maybe some of the realization came in when they were like, yeah, we're putting a defibrillator in you. And I
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
like, holy fuck, okay, like maybe I do need to take this serious. But I remember, so after I got my defibrillator in, I went, like then I was being handled by the doctors in Halifax, and the doctor that I was dealing with specifically was like very much like, as I was being told, he was very much about like, especially with like my kind of heart condition and like one similar to mine, he was very like not proactive isn't the right word, but like he was like a supporter of getting people back in sport.
Mm.
And when I had the conversation with him about like any potential of me returning to play, he was like, no. Like,
Right.
so that's kind of like when I was like, this is done. Like, yeah.
And what like is the risk specifically with football? Like it's not just the like level of exercise and the intensity of the sport, but I'm assuming the impact also would have something to do with that.
Like the impact was more for the defibrillator, but it's like because like football is very much like short bursts of like full
explosive.
Yeah. So it's like that short, like it's like that 0 to 100, which is like a really big problem. So maybe not necessarily, it's not necessarily like if I wanted to start taking up like running, like, which I have a little bit, but like it's not necessarily like the prolonged holding of pace kind of thing, but it's that like, okay, my heart is at 50 beats or 60 beats, like resting, and then I'm doing a play and I'm jacking it up to like 150 or like 160 for 20 seconds. Like,
I mean, you can feel it. Like it's like when I'm riding and there's whatever, we're coming to the end of a race and there's a sprint, like, and you jack your heart rate up to the like a crazy, like you can feel that your chest is tight. Like you're going.
I mean, outside of the like physical requirements and the physical activity and like strain that comes with football, I'm just curious, like do you, you know, because football was your life. You were looking at it as like a way to create a career. It was like, it was like your entire life was looking down a barrel of football in to some degree. So like when you are, you know, I mean, you're probably going through this now, but like in the midst of trying to accept the fact that like your career in football is over, have you tried to find ways to still actively allow yourself to be a part of football, whether that be from like a coaching perspective or like from a, you know, like from a community perspective, or like, are you still involved in football, or is that just too much and you just need to like go, if I can't fucking play it, it's too close to home. I got to get away from it because it hurts too bad.
So like right out the gate, like, so I got diagnosed, and then I did my last year of university, and I was away from the team that year. But then my first year out of university, so which would have been last year, I got a job at Football Nova Scotia. So I'm like directly involved with football.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And then I started coaching at St. Mary's last year.
Amazing.
So, and then this coming year, I'm going to be actually coaching at Queens. So in July, I'll go to Kingston.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I have been, but honestly, like that has been a part of like what I've been dealing with, because it's like I'm surrounded by football.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by like guys who are in football and like more or less living out my dream.
Yeah.
Right. In a way. So it, like that has been a part of it, because it always just feels like, I guess I'm like, yeah, I'm just watching people do what I wanted to do. And it's kind of, it's a shitty feeling, but it's also rewarding. Like I definitely enjoy coaching, and I enjoy watching people get to.
Yeah. Cause I could see it being like, I mean, you know, when I was younger, like when I was like 16, 15, like paddling was my football to what, you know, football is to you. And I suffered an injury and had to stop, and it was crushing. And like, it hurt so bad that I couldn't even imagine. I had to remove myself fully from the community. Like the idea of getting involved, if say it was a different age and like coaching was like available, it was like, no, fuck that. Like I have to get away. And which I see, it sounds like in your case, there is that sense of like, oh God, I long for this. Like I miss this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to be able, like to have the skills that you have, and to be able to give back what you have within you to up and coming athletes that were once at a position that you were at. I mean, that's a fucking pretty beautiful thing to have, and an opportunity to have. And like, I'm glad that you are able to shape that and find that, even though it's probably sometimes like just fucking so hard, like just longing to like be on the field and just fucking lay dudes out. But I'm like, that is really fucking sick. And like, that's the thing is like, there still could be a career, you know, like a coaching career, like that's a legitimate fucking career.
Yeah.
Like if you kept at that and took the skills that you have within you and like to just fucking take that to the moon. Like that's awesome. Like
24 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, like coaching university at that age, like you are on the cusp of, you're doing something that most people don't start fucking doing until they have to retire, or until they've like suffered an injury deep into their active career. You know, your illness came so early in your career, yet you're already taking up coaching positions. Like
who knows? Maybe you'll be the next McVay.
Yeah.
Just getting a shot at the Super Bowl at 30 years old.
That'd be amazing.
Someone got shot at the Super Bowl. Wow.
You don't know who
McVay,
you don't know who McVay is,
No.
Jer, but
No.
Che and I are on the same wavelength here.
So. Shout out Sean.
Yeah.
If you got any wrestling references, I'm fucking on board.
Yeah, you
I'll get on
are.
it.
Yeah, with fake sports.
Yeah.
If you know any fake sports
Yeah.
references, then
There's a
Jesus
whole
Christ,
community that's
Taylor,
mad that you
fucking-
said that.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ, Taylor, watch your fucking mouth.
Hey,
dude.
what was that movie way back in the day when we were kids that was about the two guys that don't believe that wrestling is fake, and they go on the road trip to like all the sports events,
I
and
vaguely remember that.
they like refuse to accept that wrestling
I
is.
vaguely remember that.
is-
I should pick that.
It's
up.
called. I think it's called like Ready to Rumble. I think it's
Yes. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Do you watch wrestling?
Like not anymore. I mean, I feel like TikTok and Instagram kind of forces me to
Yeah.
see it.
I just
probably more
got
than
back into it in a big
forces
way.
me.
And it's just like I'm
Oh,
I'm a
Jair's-
kid again. It's
Yeah.
fucking
called. Oh
amazing.
yeah.
It's fun.
Great.
I mean,
It's
like
great.
honestly, I can almost appreciate it more knowing that it's quote unquote fake or like scripted.
Yeah.
Because of how intense like some of the tricks are, like, or
Fake
some
is
of
it?
the,
Fake is
it's
kind of
not the right
It's
word.
not the right word.
No.
It's scripted.
yeah.
But dude,
Dude.
you can't fake being thrown through a table off the
Exactly.
top
Yeah.
of a fucking cell.
I didn't
28
like
feet up
David
in the air.
Arquette,
exactly.
David Arquette, and Scott Can.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't appreciate wrestling when I was younger in that way because of that, like it's fake, air quotes. I really like the idea of wrestling now when I think of it as theater.
Yes, it's a
It's
soap opera.
artistic.
It's a soap opera for fucking smart men and women across the
Intellectuals.
world. Intellectuals. Yeah.
Except if you go down to the pub in Dartmouth when there's a wrestling night here, then you find that that's
wanna be
not the
careful.
audience
You
that
wanna
it
be careful.
attracts.
Yeah, you want to be careful going to the wrestling events at the Parkside Pub. You want to be very careful what you chant.
I honestly, I was afraid of looking in certain directions for fear that I might get stabbed.
It is an experience. So just to bring it all back in here, you're on your journey to like make peace with this, which fucking amen, good for you. That's beautiful. I'll ask you this: what do you think is the biggest thing that HCM has? I think I said HPC earlier. HCM has taken away from you. I mean, obviously football, but is there anything else? Like what? Like, I mean, if that's the answer, that's the answer. But what would you say to that question? What's the biggest thing that hypertrophic cardiomyopathy has taken away from you?
Yeah, I guess like especially in like it's getting better as I go like through my journey, but it's like the answer is football, but like the more specific answer is like my identity in a way.
Yeah.
Just because like all through high school, like I was a football player. Like through university, I was football player. And so then when it's like, oh, you're the best football player, and then to have that like taken away, it's just, it feels like I lost like a part of who I was, and like trying to, I guess, refine that in other ways has been like the biggest challenge. And just, yeah.
What would you say is the biggest thing that it's given you?
Maybe just perspective in the way of like appreciating the time, like appreciating the smaller things, appreciating like spent time with my family. Cause I mean, even though I hope and I'm told that I can live a long life and nothing may ever happen to me, but like when I'm in those moments or spending time with family, like I can appreciate it more and kind of always see myself from like a third eye perspective, like looking down at myself, like even things like this, it's like I'm here because of that. So and I enjoy stuff like this, right? So it's nice. Yeah, it's good.
Well, dude, I mean, it's a goddamn shame that we don't get to see you on the big field in your career one day, but in the same breath, it's a fucking gift to know that you are playing an integral role in young athletes' lives right now with the role that you picked up, and to know that you have it in you to take that and run with it. Well, I wouldn't run with it, but just like maybe like
Jog.
jaunt,
Yeah.
just
Brisk
to like,
walk.
yeah, brisk walk because we don't want you to fucking die. But to take that and run with it, and like potentially change the lives of many athletes over the years, because you're young and you're doing something. You're doing your life is still entrenched in the thing that you love, and that love, I honestly think, is gonna like take you places in that career that some people are gonna be very fucking lucky to have you be a part of their career. So
Got me tearing up over here.
keep that up, man.
Borderline
You keep it
tears.
up.
I appreciate it, man.
I do want to say too, like as somebody who's been on, and I've said this before, I've told the story on the podcast before, and I mentioned it earlier, but like I've been on the field with somebody who's died of a sudden cardiac arrest. And yeah, I feel like there's like this element of like, oh, well, it didn't happen and you got diagnosed, and like takes that away from you. But as like somebody who's seen it happen firsthand on the field, I'm just really glad that they caught it when they did, and that you're safe, dude.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
sometimes it doesn't end that way, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. The only other thing, like, sorry, just because I thought it was like kind of like another like main character thing was like, so because my dad passed away November, right before I was diagnosed in January of like cardiomyopathy. Like, well, I don't know if that's what it was like written as, but it was of a heart attack. And so like that, there was like warning signs right prior, which was like, just, it was, yeah. So that was just interesting because I remember getting a call and then they were like, yeah, he died of a heart attack. Like, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, you should get checked. And I'm like, yeah, I should. Like, and then kind of blowing it off. So like for this to come up like right after was kind of like a holy shit, like this is intense. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
And yeah,
Wow.
I mean, so like, yeah. And to that like genetic piece, I mean, was there any, like, was there anything that did you get any answers based on like, oh, like, you have this, there's probably the genetic link or.
So like, yeah, they said that there was definitely like a genetic link, but like, that's the other cool thing about like, probably the coolest part about my diagnosis is like when they did the genetic testing, what I have is like not seen before. So I have like a mutation.
Oh, you really are a main
Cool.
character, eh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
This fucking guy.
That's what I'm saying. Next blind side, man. No, but yeah. So, and actually, it's funny because I always joke with my buddy. Like, my buddy is a huge shout out Brandon Bishop, my boy, but he's a huge Marvel fan.
Ooh.
So, like, my joke with him is always like, dude, like, he's a huge Iron Man fan. So I'm like, dude, like, I'm literally a cyborg and a mutant.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make you
Yeah,
feel?
yeah, that's it. The Hulk and Iron Man fucked and made a
Exactly.
robotic little
Project
freak baby.
Hulk, man.
Yeah.
It's actually Trent Williams' kid too.
All right. Well, Che is, dude, that guy's a G.
I love Che.
Fucking like Che a lot.
I've known Che for a very long time.
Yeah.
Since he was much smaller than he currently is.
I remember when Che was a baby.
Big boy.
Che, if you can believe it, Che was once not that big.
Yeah.
He was a baby.
Yeah. Right.
So this week for the wrap up, we'll keep it kind of short. And actually, we're going to be talking about something that really has nothing to do with football or Che or anything remotely close to what we just talked about.
Okay.
However, before we get into it, I'm just receiving word. Oh, yep. We have some breaking news. So this breaking news is it's coming to us live.
It's amazing to have these in the field correspondence.
Yeah.
Really ups our journalism game.
Breaking
All right, here we go.
news.
Breaking news.
As the weather warms, we'll be outside more,
And our
in
time
contact
machine.
with nature and small animals that may carry the plague. The Washoe County Health Department warns us every year to avoid contact with any rodents, especially squirrels, marmots, mice, and chipmunks. Now, they could be carrying disease fleas that can infect you or your pets with the plague. I have a few precautions to take when out camping or picnicking. Don't feed the animals or leave any food out to
Why is
tempt
she
them.
laughing?
Also, use flea collars and flea powder
That's
on your
not
dogs
funny.
and cats. And clear any extra long weeds or underbrush from around your home. Now, that will discourage small animals from nesting there. Now, if you spot an animal you suspect may carry the plague, report it to the health department right away.
You know, it's funny, we've been talking about this, and it's really a serious situation. But when you hear the word plague, it sounds extremely serious. We're not really sure just what it is. We'll be finding out about that shortly, I'm sure. Well, the Carson City Sheriff says he wants a coroner's jury to look into the case of a prison convict run over by a dump truck. Right now, no one seems to know whether or not the truck driver was supposed to run over the inmate, since he was trying to... Excuse me. This is terrible. It happens once in a while. Bear with us, folks. It is live television. We're doing the very best we can.
The very best.
Trying to escape in a garbage bag, Carson says to the undersheriff. Excuse me. A coroner's jury hopefully will be able to clear up some of the questions that we certainly can't hear tonight. And on Night Watch this Monday, Reno police right now are investigating a downtown accident. Somebody hit by a car on 2nd Street by Calneva Casino. An ambulance has been dispatched. No word yet. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, God.
No word yet on injuries, but right now, police don't think they'll turn out to be serious injuries. All other agencies tell us it's a quiet evening. And that's News 4 Night Watch for this Monday.
Okay, so the reason I played that,
I am so curious.
I know. So in the beginning they were saying plague season, okay? And the female reporter was saying, look, don't go near rodents or little critters because they're carrying the plague and you don't want to get the plague. But she could not, like, for some reason to her, that was fucking hilarious. And then, of course, they cut to Buddy. And he's talking about a guy that gets fucking run over by a dump truck. A prisoner.
You're so from Sackville.
They got run over by a dump truck.
They went to Buddy.
They went to Buddy there. And he can't keep it fucking straight. So the reason they were laughing was because at the time, this plague season would come around every year and they'd be talking about it every year. But it was not typically referred to as plague season. It was typically referred to as beaver fever. And beaver fever is also colloquially known as a person who's really horny for beaver, aka vagina. Cookie. And so they were talking about, like, they were like, we can't be saying beaver fever anymore. We got to change this. So let's just say plague season. And she couldn't hold it together because she just continuously just thinking about how funny beaver fever is,
especially when they're talking about rodents after, and then they're like,
oh fuck, I loved that clip so much, but that's not the breaking news. There must have been some sort of mix up there, but the breaking news coming in out of Japan. Let's talk about Japan for a minute.
This is a Super Saiyan.
Yes.
And this is what is known as a Super Saiyan that has ascended past a Super Saiyan.
Yes.
So Tokyo, the Tokyo government.
Your daily reminder to go back and watch Dragon
I feel
Ball
like
Z.
we might have actually covered this before. So Japan's going through an interesting time right now where the birth rates have completely tanked.
Yep. Similar. Well, yeah, happening in a lot of places.
Yeah. Tokyo is very concerned about it, and they're putting out quite a few initiatives to try to, like, make a change here. So Tokyo in particular, the city of Tokyo, the government of Tokyo has launched a dating app to boost birth rates. Japan's capital will launch its own dating app as early as this summer as part of the government's efforts to boost the plunging national birth rate, a Tokyo official said on Tuesday. It's been running a dating app test program called Tokyo Futari Story, which aims to match individuals using artificial intelligence. Futari refers to a pair or couple in Japan, a country where remaining single and unmarried have become increasingly normalized.
Well, that's such an interesting approach to the situation, considering there, like, I'm assuming there's already dating apps. So, like,
yeah, there's quite a few.
Like, what is different about this app that encourages people to procreate? Like, there was the
whose Tinder's going on?
There is remember when the Danish government?
I've never used a dating app, so I was like, what's that?
Wasn't that the Danish government that was doing that similar thing where they had the campaign that, like, you could go and, like, I don't know, rent a house or something, and you were encouraged to. There was like a holiday for it or something.
Like encouraged.
You're encouraged to like
have babies.
Just
Just to fuck.
I
You remember that?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
We talked about it on the podcast.
That sounds fun to bring a black light to that place, wherever that is.
Yeah.
Do they charge
And look for ghosts.
So
What were you guys thinking?
So it's like an Airbnb that has like a supercharged cleaning fee.
An Airbnb that comes with a heart-shaped bed where if you put a quarter in it, it vibrates.
Yeah, it's a level in phasmophobia.
Nice. So Tokyo Futari Story, Brian, to answer your question, specifically asks participants to submit various identification documents, including tax forms, verifying annual income, and an official certificate of single status. Users also take a diagnostic test so the app can learn about their values and what they're looking for in a partner. According to local paper, the Asahi Shimbun, the official fee-based version of the app, so you pay into it, will also require users to sign a pledge promising they are serious about finding a marriage partner rather than seeking a casual fuck buddy.
That sounds ironclad. How are people going to get around that? You know what?
So it's
I really
basically-
think about is okay. Yep. That's a really nice.
They're just looking to make as many babies as they can so
Yep.
Studio Ghibli can keep on pumping out the goods.
I really like the thing that jumps to mind to me is it reminds me of like if you hear of some like company that implements this like weird policy that has like good intentions, but it's just weird, and you're like, how is that ever going to work? Like applying this sort of modern technological sort of like solution or potential solution that's like very rational and has all of these pragmatic ideas behind it, like tax forms, so you can match up like levels of income.
I felt that way when
Whereas,
I
like,
watched the Apple event yesterday.
Like love and companionship is so non-logical
Yeah.
in so many times, and
Yeah.
like it doesn't follow these like, and I feel like you see examples of people who end up not finding a partner over time because they have this like stringent criteria of like what they're
Yes.
looking for in a partner.
I think we all can name a person we know.
100%.
Dude, elite singles.
You know those people that they have this impossible
It rhymes with
checklist.
Schmave Smulgan.
I don't find that with no,
I'm joking.
I don't find that with
I'm just
Schmave.
joking. I'm just joking.
But
John Salmon.
you know, you have this, you have this list, this criteria
Joking.
that no one's
Joking.
ever going to meet, and so you just go through dates and dates and dates and dates, and you never truly connect because you're trying to base it off this logical thing, and
Yeah.
love is not logical. And
This
so
is the
you
this is
end
the
up
thing
alone.
with AI that like, there's all these things we can think of that like AI could be really beneficial for, and maybe this could be beneficial for it. But there's also all these things that just like, I don't know, when you start to think about it, especially in these early days, as it start, and it's going to start to roll out really quick, like faster than we can really comprehend. There's these feelings that are going to come with it in the early stages for sure that just make you kind of go, "Ugh." Like when I was watching the Apple event yesterday, and they were like, so you can say to Siri, hey Siri, when's my meeting with my mother? And it's like, and Siri will rifle through your emails because your mother sent you that email 5 months ago, and they'll find it, and then they'll be able to tell you how long it takes for you to get there, and remind you that you also have to pick up your daughter because you can constantly forget that your daughter needs to be picked up from school, and your daughter texted you that you got to stop forgetting to pick me up. It's like, oh shit, dude, like that's, I don't know, that feels, there's like a little part of it that just feels a little like, oh, I don't want you to know that much. you know?
I do though. It's so exciting.
So stating one's income.
Wait. Before
I just want to say, baby, based on these dating apps, because like that income thing is a bit weird. That's actually something that's super common in Japanese dating apps and has been for quite a while.
Income in general.
Yes, but Tokoyo will require a tax certificate slip to prove the annual salary. That's something that's new, that's being added to this
So like
Utari.
before, like they might say, on whatever other Japanese dating app, they might say
I
like
make-
income range like
Yeah.
$80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah, and the way they do is through emojis. So they'll put like a little like needle, I'm vaccinated, and then they'll put like money bag, and then happy face, but then money with the fly with like the wings,
Yeah,
like
flying
5
away,
of those, and they'll make sad face because they're like, I spend a little too much money,
Yeah, like I
make
make
bank,
good money, but
but I also
spend more than I make.
I bet on robots
Yeah.
fighting.
This
Um,
is like
I-
just okay.
I really just want to say it. So that campaign in Denmark was called "Do It for Denmark." You guys don't remember we
Oh,
talked
dude,
about this?
I don't.
No,
but
it's-
it's nice.
So this Danish media company built this advertising campaign that was designed to increase the birth rate. So
So
same
this
sort
is
of problem.
It's the same idea.
Same problem.
Wow, interesting.
And it was launched by a travel agency though, which was like it says here their tongue-in-cheek attempt to lure Danes to book holidays as a way to stop a purported population decline.
Now, are they also encouraging like people that don't live there to come over and also help with that situation?
I think they were sending them actually out of country to go on these holidays
Holy
and
shit.
fuck while they were abroad and
Wow.
then come back and
Nice.
come
Wow.
back
So
pregnant.
what nationality is the child?
Whatever the person, wherever they went on vacation, I suppose.
we were just having a meeting with our friend Zale, who has the podcast Preconceived, amazing podcast. They could have named that initiative Preconceived.
Wow, there you go.
That's nice, right?
Wow.
So we quote, we learned that 70% of people who want to get married aren't actively joining events or apps to look for a partner, a Tokyo government official in charge of the new app told AFP. We want to give them a gentle push to find one. It's not unusual for municipalities to organize matchmaking events in Japan, where birth rates have dropped to a new low in 2023, but it's rare for a local government to develop an app. And they've spent a significant portion of money into this. They've sunk $1.3 million to a private company to basically make this app for them.
And that's nothing compared to a Rive can here in Canada.
Wow.
Many
You just opened up a big can there, buddy.
That's true.
all right, I guess we're getting political. Many social media users express skepticism over the plan, with one saying, "Is this something the government should be doing with our tax?" Others wrote that they were interested and would feel safer. Last year, Japan recorded more than twice as many deaths as new babies. In
Wow.
2023, the number of babies born in Japan fell for an 8th straight year to a new record low, according to the government data. Meanwhile, the number of marriages slid under 500,000 for the first time in 90 years, indicating potential for future declines. Estimates by the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research Project, Japan's population, this is pretty wild, will drop about 30% to 87 million by 2070, with 40% of citizens aged 65 or older based on recent trends.
Wow.
This could have a detrimental effect on Japan's workforce, which is already suffering a serious labor shortage. Japanese workers are already putting in some of the longest hours in the world. The potential impact on Japan's society and economy has prompted its top government spokesperson to promise unprecedented steps to address the problem. According to the Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, the next 6 or 7 years leading up to the 2030s are Japan's last chance to reverse declining birth rates.
Don't you
and
guys-
it's accelerating a set of policies
Like,
to do so.
doesn't this feel weird to you? Like, it would feel weird to me knowing that the government is designing an app that's basically meant to make me find a partner that I want to have a child with.
So here's the
Like, that feels
Yeah.
here's the
But
that
what if you
feels-
used it and you found someone that was perfect?
but here's the
it's just
the
that the
here's the issue.
government did it was weird.
Here's the thing to think about. Here's the
Yeah.
thing to think about in terms of Japan and other countries like Japan, obviously, and a bunch of European countries. Like there's a lot of countries that do things that where the government does things that to people in Canada and definitely people in the US are like, what the fuck is the government doing? Because there's much more of a sense of individuality in North America. And then in Europe and in Japan, there's a much bigger sense of collectivism. And in countries where there is that bigger sense of collectivism, the government can implement things that are helpful for people that if you implemented the same program here, it would just never work.
Mhm.
But this seems like a step too far.
I also wonder-
like the government
Well,
going
they're in
in
panic
a
mode.
place where it's
I
like,
mean, they're in a mode where they're like, we've got to fucking do something, throw everything at the wall.
To me-
We're desperate. you
I would
know?
imagine that and I feel like we've actually talked about this before, is like Japan has been so steeped in traditional values for so long, like traditional Japanese values that have like gone back a really long time. And it seems like over the last like 20 or 30 years, maybe longer, I'm not really sure, that those things have like pretty rapidly deteriorated and left like a vacuum of like living life in a new way that causes an issue like this. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's like this one sort of way that everybody agrees upon or does things in a very particular way, and that the result of that is like people get married and people have kids, and you have a rising population, and then all of a sudden that sort of like those things deteriorate, and almost everyone all at once decides like we're not going to really do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this, and then that leaves you with this problem, because now people are living in this entirely different way, and you end up with something like declining birth rates, which is really, really bad.
But yeah, I guess to me this
Like
feels
from like an economic standpoint.
this feels more like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, like in the sense that is the problem that people aren't having enough sex and like making enough babies, or is the problem like the way that society is set up?
It's a ton of different problems.
It's so many things.
Societal factors are fueling the decline. Averse to out of wedlock births due to entrenched family values. Japan grapples with societal factors contributing to the birth rate crisis. High living costs outpacing salaries, bleak job prospects, corporate cultures incompatible with dual working parents emerge as deterrents to marriage and family life.
Yeah, and it's wild. It's like, well, to solve all those problems, let's just get people to have more sex.
There's also
that seems like a crazy solution.
This is really fascinating. There's also like an aversion to young children in Japan. So like societal discomfort with crying babies and children playing outdoors compounds the challenges. There's like it's not like a kid friendly place. Which is
what's really crazy.
So interesting.
Like this, it makes me think about. I can't remember what I was doing. I was looking at something to do with childcare, I think, in Canada, and it was like it was so evident as I was reading this information that there was just a complete lack. There's a complete ignorance to the fact that as more women came into the workforce, like as the sort of like societal norm for women to not work started to change, and like now where like basically that's everybody, like everybody works. You have 2 working parents in almost every household. That there was absolutely no insight or ability to look into the future and realize that now there would be this childcare crisis, because now the person that was at home, that used to be at home taking care of the children all day, is at work. And it's things like that where it's like you make there's these societal changes, and it is going to drastically impact a part of your society that is obvious when you think about it, but you don't take any action on. And then you're left with this like crazy hole in your whole society.
But part of that is like that problem with, politicians and 4-year cycles of them being elected and they just focus on the issues that are going to create perceived value in the short term. Like people just we don't have a cycle that allows for like long-term problems to be thought about and worked on in advance, because there's nobody gets a pat on the back for that by doing that.
I see what you're saying. More dictators.
Yes, exactly.
We need more dictators in office for 20, 30 plus year cycles.
Yeah.
And the dictator should always name their successor, which is from their family bloodline.
Exactly. And you're seeing what I'm saying, and I'm seeing what you're saying. You're saying women need to go back into the homes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap it up.
We've made a lot of
Thank you all
progress
so
here.
much for tuning in today, and please stick around. Please.
For what?
And thank you all so much. If you want to support the podcast, you can come on over to our Discord. We'd love to have you over there. Links in the show notes, and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts wherever you're listening to the show. And of course, take a moment, tell a friend, tell someone you love, let them know that you're listening to the show and that they should too.
And if you want to be a guest on the show, let us know. Go over to sickboypodcast.com and fill out the guest form. I find those stories, like in particular that we talked to Che about, like people that all of a sudden like get this thing, especially the heart thing with athletes. Like, man, it's such a game changer. Those are crazy stories. So yeah, if you have one, go over, fill out the guest form.
And thanks as always to Jeff Lonis, Donovan Morgan, Rich O'Coin, and everybody else. We love you guys.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sickboy.